At every step this year, they said it wouldn't be done. Well, folks, we got it done. You got it done. My name is David Chu, and on behalf of our 4 bill authors, I am so honored to welcome you and to recognize the incredible leadership who got it done. Dr. King said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. For those of us in the tenant movement, the arc has been very long. Let us start by thanking those of you who have bent the arc toward justice for those who have lacked housing, who have fought in the trenches for years, who've reminded California that the rent is too damn high. We are here to salute those of you at the heart of the movement, our tenant advocates, starting first and foremost with ACE. ACE is here. I want to acknowledge the Western Center, PICO, Public Advocates, CRLA, PolicyLink, Tech Equity, our friends from Labor, the California Labor Fed, SEIU, the building trades. We have YIMBYs, our affordable housers, the Turner Center, CASA, our 3P leadership, and for anyone I've missed, thank you to the countless Californians who made calls, organized our tenants, and were part of getting this done. Thank you. Of course, I need to thank all of the legislators who are here today. You see some of them standing behind me. You will see all of them in a few moments. In the Senate, 25 votes due to the leadership of our Senate President Pro Tem, Tony Atkins. I also want to take a moment and thank my good friend Bob Hertzberg, who's here, as well as the chair of our Senate Housing Committee, Scott Wiener. In the Assembly, I want to thank, he's not here today, our Speaker Rendon. And I want to single out, there are many who deserve credit here, but I want to single out my amazing joint authors. There was only one member who campaigned, when she campaigned for the State Assembly in 2018, she said as a freshman, she's going to get rent caps done. Buffy Wicks. Only one member had the courage to propose just cause before it was popular. His name is Rob Bonta. And only one member literally preached as a minister to our colleagues to care for our neighbors. The former mayor of Concord, Assembly member Tim Grayson. And I'm going to do something a little unorthodox, but I want to thank all of the unsung heroes for everyone who is a staffer who worked on this bill. Steve Wertheim, Lisa Engel, Katie Kalidas, Anthony Williams, Jason Elliott, all of you. Stand up. Let us give you a hand. Now, there are some naysayers who are still criticizing this bill. So I want to take a moment and thank the input from industry who came to the table to be part of the solution. Our bill ensures tenants are protected against rent gouging and predatory evictions while allowing landlords to make a fair rate of return without disincenting new construction, thanks to the feedback of the California Apartment Association, the building industry, and business leaders around California. Thank you. There's one final person that I need to thank today among many, many others. In his State of the State address, he challenged the legislature to deliver a strong renter package. He dedicated his top staff. He pleasantly surprised us in August by suggesting that the bill needed to be stronger. With his help, California will have the strongest tenant laws in the country. I'm, of course, referring to the 40th governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom. In closing, this is a bill, because of you, that's going to help over 8 million Californians who have been one rent increase away from eviction or homelessness. This is historic legislation, but let me tell you, folks, our work is not done. In the long run, we have to build millions of new units at all levels of affordability. In the meantime, we, though, have more work to do for our renters who are struggling during this housing crisis. Just because someone rents doesn't make them any less worthy of having a stable home. And until that is true for everyone, until everyone has a roof over their head, until everyone has a place they can go home, we're going to continue this fight for our renters, for our tenants in California. But all that being said, today we celebrate, and it is my honor to introduce someone who has represented the face of tenants in the state of California, someone who told us her story of having her rent increased by more than 100%, a member of PICO, a member of Fair Rents for Redwood City. Please welcome Stasha Powell.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stasha Powell, a renter and volunteer leader with Fair Rents for Redwood City. I began working on housing justice and renter protections alongside Faith in Action Bay Area, the San Mateo County Anti-Displacement Coalition, and PICO, California. I am here to share a little bit about our journey as a coalition. Today's victory is not isolated to just this legislative cycle, but rather builds off of critical local work by impassioned communities for renter stabilization and eviction protections, as well as statewide battles that galvanize tenant equity groups across the state to realize our true power. I represent a diverse and cohesive sponsor coalition that worked tirelessly to get here today. I want to recognize the decision makers who had the endurance, courage, and moral guidance to make this victory happen, including Assembly Members Bonta, Grayson, Wicks, and lead author, Assemblymember Chu, alongside their respective staff, and the governor and his staff. Moreover, I want to recognize the efforts of our sponsorship organization team, which includes Tech Equity, PICO, California, Policy Link, the Western Center on Law and Poverty, Public Advocates, and ACE over there. In addition to the many ally organizations out there, together we worked a robust capital and field strategy playing off of our strengths and learning from one another. On a personal note, I want to thank Daniel Saver of CLESPA and Redwood City Council member Diana Reddy. This is a huge and wonderful coalition that is supportive, growing, and soon will have enormous capacity to achieve stronger victories so that we can finally realize a California where there no longer exists a housing crisis, where everyone truly belongs, and where we can genuinely say that housing is a human right. Now I would like you to give a warm welcome to ACE member Sasha Graham.
Hi, my name is Sasha Graham, and I am the State Board President of the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, ACE. Today is a big day for California and for the country. Today, we signed into law the largest expansion of renter protections in recent U.S. history. Today, we prioritize California families' basic need for housing and stability over unrestricted profits. I know from personal experience how important today is. In 2014, I was living in a home with my son in Richmond, California, that I had been living in for nearly 10 years without issue. In May of that year, the property was sold to a new owner. Within a month, my rent was increased over $1,000. In one fell swoop, over 150% rent increase. My income had not increased, but I was able to scrape the money together to pay the new rent amount in full and on time. But within 20 days, the landlord gave me a no-cause eviction to be out of our home within 60 days. My son and I became homeless for 3 years. We were forced to live in unsafe and unstable circumstances because we couldn't afford anything more. We moved from couch to couch while I continued to work and started undergraduate school at UC Berkeley. It was traumatizing. It is not an overstatement when I say that the Tenant Protection Act of 2019 will literally save lives. It will prevent millions of families from facing the same kind of outrageous rent increases and unfair evictions that put my son and I on the streets for 3 years. To all of our elected officials, we know that getting this bill to the finish line wasn't easy. Your colleague, Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk-Silva, during the recent Assembly floor hearing on this bill, said, "Doing what's right takes courage." Today we thank you for being courageous. And know that there's a growing army of tenants who every day are becoming a greater political force. And we have your back as long as you have ours. We need you to continue to be courageous and continue to help the millions of renters, families, seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, who are paying far more than 50% of their income on rent. And for all of our fellow Californians, know that this is just the beginning. Until everyone in California has a stable, healthy, and affordable roof over their heads, we will keep organizing and growing. Join us.
Colleagues, watch out. She might run against one of us. Our next speaker is someone who has mentored those of us who are the assembly authors in moving forward housing legislation. She has been a housing champion to her core, the president of the California State Senate from San Diego, Toni Atkins.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Let me start by thanking your incredible mayor, Libby Schaaf, for inviting us to be here in your great city today. Thank you. You know, California is an incredible and great state. It's why I moved here 35 years ago. I am no stranger to, housing that's not quite what most of us would hope to live in. I grew up in a 4-room house with no running water and an outhouse, and it just astounds me to this day that I can move to the 5th largest economy in the world, the greatest state, and we still have these housing challenges. I never ended up homeless, so I was fortunate. But we can do better, and we know that we have a lot of work to do. I want to thank all of you who've stayed in this fight, all of the organizations and the leaders in the community, the business folks who came along to help us make it happen. I stand here with a group of incredible legislators. These are folks who have said from the day many of them got to the legislature, we've got to do something on housing. And we know that we have a great economy. We know we have a great state. But we also know unless we address not just with the action we're taking today to support renters and tenants in terms of the ability to be evicted without cause, we know that we have much more work to do. This is the beginning of work that we must do. I want to acknowledge all of the legislators that are here today, and I want to thank you for acknowledging how difficult this was. While it shouldn't be so difficult, it is always difficult to get some pieces of legislation done, because somebody always says, well, wait, this will hurt us. And we're like, but no, this is the right thing to do. And in addition to the colleagues behind me here, we have some incredible senators and assembly members right here who took the time to be here because they know they have legislation that's going to be signed today, many of them, but they also are in this for the long haul. Will you stand up and look at the cameras, legislators? Thank you. Very quickly, I know you see a lot of us, and I know you see a lot of us on TV occasionally, but let me tell you, when we're here and we're working with you and you continue to push us, and thank you for having our backs, we're going to continue to get good things done for California, for residents, for people who were born here and want to be able to remain here or come back to live here after they've gone to college. We want them to invest in our state, our home, our economy. So thank you for being here. I was honored to be asked to manage this on the Senate floor, but I got to tell you, it really was all an honor because I can't think of anything better than to make sure people have a roof over their head. So with that, let me bring up and have you welcome someone that has vision, someone that is dedicated, that is committed, that has really put his name on the line to say, we are going to do this in California. We're going to build housing. We're going to make sure that the rents are something that we can afford as Californians. He is our leader. He is our governor. He is the incredible Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. By the way, I don't live in the Bay Area anymore, so thank you for reminding me we still live in the most un-Trump state in America. I kind of feels good to be back home. Come up, in my new neighborhood north of Sacramento. It's a little bit different up there, but it is good to be back here, and it's good to be with all of you. And it's also good to be with the extraordinary leadership that is here today, to be here to see the fruits of their labor, your efforts, take shape with the signature that will affix to 7 renter protection bills today. What is, I think, remarkable about this moment is cannot be understated enough, or rather overstated either, and that is what David Chu said when he started. No one thought this could be done. There have been efforts over the course of many, many years. They don't even get a hearing, let alone at a committee. The idea that you helped create the conditions that led to this moment is a rather extraordinary journey. And it's an extraordinary journey because none of you gave up. I look around this room, I see a lot of folks I've known for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, activists in your own right, that have been at this for decades, demanding we do more and do better. And it had not been for your tenacity, for your hard work, for your stubbornness in an enlightened sense, we would never have had the opportunity to even feel confident that we would have a shot to create this moment. So I cannot impress upon all of us here to look around and to realize that we're only here because of you. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you for your incredible leadership. David talked about that, Dr. King quote about that long arch of history. There's another wonderful King quote. It says, we're all bound together by a web of mutuality. It's another way of saying what Father Cause taught me at Santa Clara University. The Bible teaches us we're many parts but one body. And when one part suffers, we all suffer. And so this notion of interdependence, right? There's no leak on your side of our boat. That we rise and fall together. That's the fundamental value proposition that unites us here today. And we know, all of us know, we're falling short of that promise and that promotion. We're living in the wealthiest as well as the poorest state in America. And while we've made some progress in the last 5 years on reducing our poverty rate, it's still the highest in the nation for one reason: cost of living. It's the supplemental poverty index, the cost of housing being that common denominator. It is the issue that defines more issues than any other issue in this state. You can't have a homelessness conversation without having a housing conversation. You can't have a poverty conversation without having a housing conversation. You can't have fill in the blank, an honest conversation, unless you're addressing this issue. And let us not, for a second, think this conversation is unique to all of us in this room. This is the national conversation our opponents are having about our state as well. We had a president of the United States come in here just a few days ago, like a seagull that comes in and does what seagulls do and fly away. If you haven't figured that out, just think about that for a second. But he wasn't wrong to highlight the issue. Wasn't wrong to highlight a vulnerability. He's exploiting it. You're trying to solve it. That's the difference between you and the President of the United States. But we recognize, as they say, program passing, signing a bill doesn't always solve every problem. That we have, as has been stated, a lot more work to be done. This is one of the 3 Ps. This is about protection. But we have to be honest about preservation. We don't talk enough about that. Preserving existing housing stock against gentrification and conversion. And then, yes, we have to address the issue of production in the state of California. We need to build more damn housing. So all this is connected, but this is profoundly important moment. And the fact that we are leading the nation in trying to meet this moment is a point of pride, and it is a point of principle that we need to continue this kind of energy to focus on increasing that supply, continuing to do the good work that Scott Wiener has been doing, raising the issue of production in this state and trying to do what we can to, just help his colleagues be convinced that they're going to survive if they just come on over and help support a little bit more of an indulgence in the construction side of things. I don't want to get too involved in the weeds, but you get the gist, that we have that in front of us to do. One thing you may not have known, we just signed legislation to provide $331 million permanent endowment in the state of California for renter protection and eviction protection dollars, legal protection, permanent endowment in this state. That's a big deal. We put tens of millions of dollars in emergency money this year, but that was one time. You have an economy that's stubborn. It's not going to always be like this, but this endowment will persist so that we're here in the long term. We have bills to sign in a moment on protecting folks that are beneficiaries of Section 8 housing. We have bills. Thank you, Holly. We have bills that do the same for VASH, for our veterans that are long overdue in the state of California as well. We have a framework, a bill to focus on regionalization. You can't talk about issues of housing and homelessness unless you start framing them in regional terms. And I want to thank you again, Assemblymember, for your leadership on that bill as well, which I'm looking forward to sign. So a lot of good things in this package. A lot of hard work ahead of us. I'll just conclude by thanking, I've known David Chu forever now, it seems. When we were colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, I was Mary's board president, and everywhere I go, there he is. He's up at Sacramento, and, I knew he wasn't going to give up on this process, and we know that Renters Caucus isn't as big. I always thought, we said, geez, we're not in San Francisco anymore. It's a different place, California. It's not, it's a broad constituency. And to see David's tenacity in this process, working with Tim and Rob and the incredible leadership of Buffy and others, forgive me, first name basis, but these are all my friends, folks. People I admire, like outside of the political realm, to have the incredible leadership of a pro tem that, former speaker, now pro tem, housing advocate for decades. You want to talk about legislative leader on housing issues? Look at the bonds we had on the ballot last year. Look at all those damn renter protections. They have her name attached to it, Tony Atkins. You got a good crew of folks here, and it's a long way, and I'm going to step down now, of saying it's a group that's growing. It's growing. And I'll just say these final words. Once a mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. And the fact that we created the capacity of belief, now we know this can be done. You're going to see this happening states all across the country, not just one or two states. There is no doubt in my mind this is a movement afoot all across this country, because it may be mostly acute here in California, but is not unique, this affordability crisis in our nation. And so thank you, all of you, for meeting this moment. Now let's sign these damn bills.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the bill signing ceremony. Folks, you're going to remain seated. Please remain seated during the bill signing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the bill signing ceremony. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. Please remain seated during the bill signing ceremony. Please, thank you. Down in front, please. Thank you very much. Everyone wants their great photos here. Thank you.
Which one's this? Oh, it's Laura. Look at this. On notification on ridiculously high rent increases, we thank you very much for your leadership on this. Thanks, Laura. All right. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. He's not here as well. All right, I'll sign this. You can find out more about this later. I'm joking. This is something very familiar to everyone in this room on Ellis Act evictions. So I knew that would get some applause in this room. And what do we have here? This is your regional plan, which I love. This is good. This is exciting. This is on the Regional Housing Authority. Thank you guys, Mayor, Council, everybody else for that. And that concludes the signing ceremony. Thank you guys very, very much.